Dear guests, amidst the current economic climate's impact on industries, including real estate, our upcoming panel, Investing in Inflationary and Recession Scenarios, explores effective strategies for thriving and adapting. I am delighted to invite on stage Cecilia Ioannou, Public Relations Manager at BBF, to moderate this insightful session. Over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Realty On Expo 2023. Oh, I forgot.
Sorry, I just forgot. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Realty On Expo 2023 panel, Investing in Inflationary and Recession Scenarios. I will be moderating it, and I'm sure it will be an insightful session. My name is Cecilia Ioannou, and I am the PR Manager at BBF. Just to mention, BBF is a renowned residential and commercial development company with its core value reflected in our brand promise, Build Better Future, with a diverse portfolio of over 136 developments, including iconic projects like Sky Tower, Marco Polo, and Eden Rock. BBF offers a wide range of properties, including residential apartments, villas, townhouses, and commercial offices. And now, it is my great pleasure to introduce our esteemed panelists for today with alphabetical order. Starting the introduction with Dr. Stella Mourouzidou Damtsa, Manager of Segments and Propositions at the Bank of Cyprus, PCL, where she is responsible for segments, analytics, CRM, and business intelligence. Mrs. Stella, thank you for being here. And continuing with Mr. Simos Simillides, Commercial Director at Pafilia Property Developers Limited, has over 20 years of industry expertise, and he is leading Pafilia's sales and marketing teams both in Cyprus and overseas. His role at Pafilia focuses on expanding its presence in all markets and promoting investment opportunities in Cyprus and Greece. Mr. Simos, thank you for joining us today. And continuing with Mr. Fivos Theodorou, Head of Sales and Business Development at Property Gallery, who brings extensive working experience in international real estate from Southeast Asia to Europe. Most recently served as a real estate investment fund manager appointed in London for a single-family office, a real estate investment professional in residential, high-end, and commercial developments. Mr. Fivos, thank you for your participation today. Before we begin, let me make some remarks for our today's subject of discussion. In 2022, EU witnessed an inflation rate of 9.2%, while Cyprus experienced a rate of 8.1%. These alarming figures can be largely attributed to political instabilities, leading to increased energy and construction costs and rising prices. Furthermore, Cyprus has emerged as a sought-after destination for information and communication technology companies, resulting in a significant rise in office relocations and employee transfers. This, in turn, has fueled the demand for residential and commercial properties, causing a surge in property acquisitions and rentals in Cyprus. Against this backdrop of the rise of inflation and dynamic economic demand and supply, our primary objective today is to initiate a discussion with our esteemed panelists who will provide a valuable insight tailored to property developers, investors, and individual buyers. Now, let's start our discussion with Mrs. Stella. Mrs. Stella, what are the current inflation projections for upcoming year for Europe and Cyprus? And how does this affect the real estate industry?
Thank you very much. I just would like to comment that inflation pressures are something totally new in the 2000s. From 2000 to 2010, inflation was extremely low, from 2 to 3%. And then from 2010 to 2020, we had inflation in the negative territory, with interest rates being negative, and with banks until very recently, 6 months ago, charging depositors liquidity fees just for depositing money in the bank. So what happened after that was that we had the stimulative measures in place for COVID, which introduced inflation. And then, of course, the war, the geopolitical uncertainty, the disruption in the supply chain, increased inflation to the high figure that you just mentioned, Cecilia, 8% in Cyprus and 9% in Europe. And the prospect for inflation for 2023 until the end of 23 is 6.7 for Europe and 3.8 for Cyprus. And for 2024, it is 3.1 for Europe and 2.5 in Cyprus percent. Yesterday, Christine Lagarde spoke, the president of the ECB, and as you know, the European Central Bank mission is to keep price stability, which essentially means having inflation around 2%. So she said that until that they feel comfortable that inflation will be curtailed, we will not be witnessing any interest rate changes anytime soon, and we may even see some more increases. Now, inflation actually is good news for real estate because real estate as an asset class provides an inflation hedge. There is a capital appreciation. Homeowners see their property prices increase, rents increase. So it's good news for those who have such assets, but they don't have loans. If you have a mortgage loan, it's bad news because your interest rate goes up and your installment goes up and your liquidity goes down. So everything has pros and cons. And I think that this is the case with real estate. And also, to conclude, we have seen some young couples postponing their decision to buy or build a property until this uncertainty in the market goes away, and they feel more confident in making such a long-term commitment because a mortgage loan can go up to 30 or 35 years. So it's like a marriage. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Stella. And now let's continue with Mr. Simos. Considering the rise of inflation, material shortages, and the increase in construction costs, as evidenced by the 17% increase in construction costs in 2022 compared to 2021, according to the CY Stat and the KPMG report, what strategies has your company implemented to navigate these changes?
Thank you, Cecilia. Yes, indeed. 2022 was a very challenging year, not just for our company, but I believe for any company dealing with construction. And again, not just in Cyprus, because the increases in material, in the cost of construction, I believe was felt all over the world. Here in Cyprus, because we are an island, we had to be a little bit more creative because most of the material that is coming is shipped over. Unfortunately, here in Cyprus, we do not have the raw material that other bigger countries might enjoy. For us, it was a challenge, and we were able to overcome this challenge by a combination of actions. We redesigned some of the developments that we had in the market. We searched for alternative suppliers and material by doing some very clever value engineering to ensure that the quality of our construction remains unaffected, and by observing the various trends in the real estate industry, we were able to redesign a few of our developments. And just to give an example, in Neo, which is the plot of land next to the municipal gardens, there we had originally designed 4 residential towers. Listening understanding the pulse of the industry, and in addition to the headquartering initiatives that the government implemented, we saw a tremendous increase, a demand for purposely built luxury offices. And we proceeded and we redesigned one of the towers and we made it into an office building. And this is just one of the examples. Further to that, in Mintis, our golf resort in Paphos, seeing again the demand for properties, for real estate, we launched our first hotel in Mintis, which again provided a very good investment product for our clients, enabling them to achieve savings from VAT, because Mintis had a resort license. This meant that clients could invest there and recover back the 19% that they paid for VAT in a lump sum, and with the provision that they would rent this property for the next 10 years. So there are solutions always. And as a company and as an individual, when we are faced with a problem, we always try to see what are the opportunities that are presented from this problem. And I believe here in Cyprus, the entrepreneurial spirit is quite strong, and the Cyprus business people can always find ways to overcome whatever difficulties that are thrown their way.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Simos. Hearing from Mr. Simos how we need to be creative in the real estate industry in order to adjust our strategies, let's proceed with Mr. Fivos. There is a saying that with every investment, there is a risk. In your opinion, what are the most significant risks faced by real estate investors in Cyprus? Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for your attention today. Cecilia, thank you for this question. I believe coming to real estate and looking to the overall market for investors, and especially when we are segmenting overseas buyers, obviously there is investors that they don't have deep knowledge or good understanding of the market. The major issue and the major risk that we have experienced on the industry in the past, it was investors engaged with the issue of title deeds, that they couldn't get the title deeds after they receive possession of the properties. I think the industry, we have learned from our mistakes. The industry professionals, together with the government, they have discussed, they have set up procedures, safeguards for the investors concerning the issue of title deeds. Obviously, when it comes to real estate, I always advise my investors, my clients, about due diligence. It's very important for the buyers, for the investors, whether they are locals, whether they are foreigners, to have a good understanding what they are buying and from who they are buying. So the due diligence process is the key element to avoid any risks. And something that the investor should study before buying is the development, is the investment asset. Has it been planning and building permits in process? Is there any loan and in debt from the developer to get the waiver letter? So there is ways undertaking the due diligence for the investors to minimize the risk and safeguard their interests. So I believe at the moment that we are on the right track. There is always room for improvement. Another thing that I want to highlight, we are in the post-COVID period now, and we see investors having an active interest for Cyprus. And as industry leaders and as industry professionals, we want to protect, we want to safeguard our investors because we want to keep a good reputation for the market.
Thank you, Mr. Fivos. And now let's continue with Mrs. Stella. How do banks in Cyprus align their strategies to enhance the customer experience and streamline mortgage procedures, aiming to eliminate paperwork and reduce the time required for consumers and potential home buyers to obtain mortgages?
All the banks in Cyprus invest heavily in technology. 94% of the teletransactions, the cashier transactions in the Bank of Cyprus, are now done digitally. So this reduced the visits to the branches. We have the mobile app, which we consider to be our most modern branch, because via the mobile app now you can get a loan up to 15,000 euros, end-to-end lendings, seamless. You can get a new credit card. You can deposit a check. So even if you have a paper check, you can use your mobile app to deposit this and you don't have to go to the branch. So these are many innovations that the banks are doing in Cyprus year on year. And what this does, what this digitalization do is to free time for customers, but also free time for our bank staff to act as counselors to customers who wish to take a mortgage loan. A mortgage loan is a long-term commitment. It has many variables. It impacts the financials of a household for the foreseeable future. Young couples who take out these loans need to understand the characteristics of the loan. They need to decide between fixed rates, between floating rates, between various maturities. So from our experience, for these lifetime events, customers wish to come to the bank and sit with their banker for about an hour to get all the information to make an informed decision. So we are trying to be near our customers, educate our customers so that they take the right decision for them, which is long-term, and they need to be certain and understand all the terms of the contract they are signing. What is happening in the future? We have a lot of tools already available on our website because tech-savvy customers like to do their research online. So we have certain calculators. We will enhance those tools. Our new feature will be an affordability calculator so that a young couple will be able to calculate on their own the maximum amount of a mortgage loan that they can take, so that they can look for properties that are within their budget before going and looking for the properties and deciding that they wish to buy a house of 1 million. It's better to see if that amount is within their affordability. So we're trying to enhance the websites and give these tools to customers. We will have more innovative products that will fit the needs of our customers. We have segmented our customers into groups, and we know their characteristics and their needs, and these products will respond and be suitable for their needs. And there is much more on the way, including electronic signatures. And I would just like to comment that a mortgage loan has many stakeholders. We have mentioned the land registry. So in order to streamline the process, all the stakeholders need to take part to make it easier and be able to give the loan in a short period of time efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Stella. And now let's continue with Mr. Simos. How does the influx of IT companies and their subsequent employee relocations impacted the local real estate market? How does this influence sales prices?
Definitely, after the government stopped the Cyprus Citizenship by Investment Program, we're very happy that it got replaced by another foreign investment program. Although it wasn't as good as the passport program, but you know, it's what we're given, so we have to make that work. But Cecilia, if you allow me 1 second just to add something that it was mentioned by Stella. Yes. Here in Cyprus, we are witnessing something that I believe happens only in Cyprus. If you look at the total number of transactions that took place in 2022, you will see 16, 17,000 residential transactions. What's only unique to Cyprus, however, is the fact that if you, and I refer you back to the KPMG report, there were 1,170 mortgages, and out of those, 100 were remortgages. So effectively, net effect was 1,100 or 1,000, something along those lines. So we had 16,000 sales, and out of those, only 1,000 came from mortgages. If you go to any country in the world, you will see that the real estate market works hand in hand with the banking sector and mortgages. In fact, it's very strange to have a European investing in real estate without a loan. I mean, if you go to the UK, and they will look at you strangely if you are prepared to pay for the whole amount with your own funds. And the same thing happens in most of Europe. So what we have here in Cyprus is quite unique, and there is definitely a lot of room for investment, especially since now with the war and that is going on, and the overall sensitivity and due diligence that is taking place with Russian funds, if we want to shift the Cyprus real estate market towards Europe and European investors, we need to step up our game, because a house and mortgages is not going to cut it if we want to bring Europeans investing in Cyprus. Sorry for that little...
Thank you for the very insightful information.
And now back to my question. Yes, definitely. Headquartering, it's great. And Cyprus, I believe, it's paradise for companies wishing to relocate. Not just because of tax, but it's a beautiful place to live and to work and to bring your family. The fact that spouses have the right to work, the ability to apply for a passport after 4 or 5 years. Again, it's a very powerful tool. And it caught us completely off guard because big companies, they come and, I mean, we were receiving calls for, okay, do you have offices for 500 employees? And by the way, do you have apartments for 500 families? And the answer is no, nobody does, you know? It's not like they were built waiting for somebody. There was not any advance warning. Plus, to be fair, it was COVID, so nobody could think that ahead or could prepare. But slowly, the market is correcting itself. Daily, more projects are being announced. As I mentioned also earlier, our own company has designed a 22-floor office tower right on the most exclusive area, I would say, in whole of Limassol. And it's work in progress. Definitely demand outweighs the supply, and this will continue for many years until we are able to catch up. But headquartering and IT companies lead to many other issues. What do I mean? A big company that's going to come over, of course they're going to need offices, of course they're going to need residential properties to stay, but they will also need private schools to send their children. And again, that was a major problem because we had a lot of clients that they couldn't even find a place for their children to go to school. So we have a lot of families that the parents live and work in Limassol, and the children go to school in Paphos. So it's not as efficient. Again, the private sector is called to step in and fix all these shortages. And I believe we have smart entrepreneurs here in Cyprus, and already more schools are being announced, more residential developments, more office space. We are on the right track. We just need to be a little bit more organized and given a heads up when things are coming in order for the private sector to be able to accommodate.
Thank you, Mr. Simos. Continuing with Mr. Fivos, where do you see the trend of premium developments and high prices, which are mainly targeting foreign investors heading? At the same time, there is a shortage of affordable, good quality housing for the middle class population in Cyprus. What potential solutions does your company envision for addressing this situation? Mr. Fivos.
Okay, so we have two parts in this question. I will try to elaborate both. So help me if I forget any part of the question. Concerning the first part, we see them high net worth individuals having an active interest about Cyprus. Being a jurisdiction, let's face it, we are part of the European Union. We are the living environment, the lifestyle and the living conditions, it's very attractive. So we have seen a big influx of foreign direct investment. And we see in the recent years, high net worth individuals having the active interest in Cyprus. In the previous years, we have seen the high-rise developments. That was the first point of entry with high net worth individuals. It was something new for the local market, but we see these projects that they are up and running, they are successful, and the business is expanding, is shifting. So for a developer or for an industry professional, you have to be flexible to see the market trends and to be able to evaluate the business opportunities. We, as Property Gallery, we saw the value with high net worth individuals living in Limassol, one of the, allow me to say, the most hot destination in Cyprus, and we see the value in the beachfront developments because, let's face it, the availability does not exist. It's very limited. And we're developing in a nearby location here in Park Lane, U Limassol, inspired by Philippe Starck. Philippe Starck is a French international awarded designer, so it's a high-value development. It's the first beachfront branded development in Cyprus. So this is how we follow our strategy to see the market trends and have the flexibility to blend in with that. Okay? So I believe I have covered more or less the first part of the question.
Yes.
Coming to the second part of the question. In my fair opinion, there is affordable living for the local market. It has to be patience for the investor, for the local buyers to make their research, to find the options that they meet and match with their expectations, with their budget, with the location. Because talking about Limassol, today the city is suffering from traffic. Location is a very important thing. How much time you're gonna spend commuting in the city from point A to point B. So there is affordable living. You need to make your research. In my humble opinion, if interest rates, with all my due respect, Stella, we see deflation with interest rates, this is where we're gonna see the local buyers feeling more comfortable and more relaxed with their decision making. And obviously, when it comes to strategy and trends, we see nowadays when it comes to master planning of a project, when it comes to architectural design, innovation and sustainability is something which is a very popular trend nowadays. And as a developer, we need to see this trend and design projects that they comply with sustainability and innovation. And this is what is going to put together the affordable living. That is a big question that we have been discussing through this question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fivos. Now continuing with Mrs. Stella. Is the proportion of mortgages taken by property development companies involved in large-scale development projects in Cyprus, and is that significant proportion? And what measures should the government, banks, and developers in Cyprus take to stimulate the growth of mortgage financing? Thank you.
Actually, the share is quite significant. I think in Cyprus it's a cultural trait. Everybody wants to own their own house. It gives them freedom, autonomy, flexibility, safety. So I think that millennials and Generation Z, their main concern is to have their own home. So when they come to the bank, they actually say that I want to buy a house or I want to buy an apartment. No one says I want a mortgage loan. So they start with their dream. So I think that to stimulate growth, banks can offer even more flexible products that are suited to the needs of the customer. There are products that can adjust the repayment schedule to the seasonality of income of the customer. There are products that fix the rate for 25 years. So the interest rate is just above 4% for those products. So 25 years for your installment to stay the same. I think it's quite important if that suits the specific client investment profile. And as regards the government, I think they can offer tax incentives or subsidies or guarantee schemes. We have already seen the government offering such schemes during the pandemic. They called the mortgages Restart because they wanted to restart the economy. And those mortgages had a subsidy of interest for the first 4 years, and they had quite a lot of demand. As a side note, an average mortgage loan amount is 100,000. So if you give 1 billion mortgage loans, it's 1,000 mortgages. Also, just recently, we had the scheme Χτίζω, which means I build to live. And this is, again, a cooperation of the government, the banks, and the developers, where the apartments for refugees will be renovated or rebuilt. And the government will offer a subsidy for the amount. It will offer a subsidy for their rent when they have to move somewhere else. And also, as part of the social corporate responsibility, the ESG, Bank of Cyprus has Support CY, which will help the refugees move. So I think it's very good to see such initiatives where all the stakeholders work together for such a good result. In the past, the government offered tax incentives for installments, mortgage loan installments, which they stopped from some point onwards. I think that this could be an idea they could consider again, especially for low-income households, which spend more of their income on energy and food, and are more impacted by inflation. As part of the ESG strategy, we also have green lending policies where we reward customers who are building energy efficient houses, either by giving some benefits, some money back into their account, or lower interest rates. And the optimal, which we dream that will happen, is to have everything interconnected into an ecosystem. So we will have an ecosystem where we will have customers, we will have developers, we will have the banks, and we will have the government. The customer will be able to find their property of interest. The bank will provide the financing. The land registry will provide the transfer of the title deed. So this is our dream, everything to be interconnected into one platform so that the whole process is done online and seamlessly. And I think that with the customers being digitally engaged, I mean, 83% of our customers are digitally engaged nowadays. With the government having the Deputy Ministry of Innovation and Digital Policy, and one of their key initiatives is the technological advancement. And with the developers, as I have heard since this morning, I have watched all the panels, technologically advancing also. I think that this would be the ideal state for the future for Cyprus. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Stella. One question now for Mr. Simos. As an expert in the property development sector, what is your advice to investors who are looking to invest in Cyprus property? How should they diversify their portfolio based on the demand and supply dynamics? Thank you.
First of all, I would like to say that property is a passion, and it's one of the safest investments somebody can make. It's an immovable property. It, as my co-speakers mentioned earlier, it can be as a hedge versus inflation, versus economic instability, because let's face it, nobody has ever lost money on real estate long term. If you buy a property, in 10 years, if you sell it, you will make money. If you're buying it today to sell it tomorrow, and COVID happens, okay, bad news. But long term, nobody has ever lost money on property. And I've been in this industry for the last 20 years, and I have to say, it is the first time when return on investment for real estate is at logical levels. If you look again at the KPMG report, last year, the average rental returns in Cyprus, and that's taking into account Larnaca and Famagusta, all the cities, it was around 5.1 for apartments. This year, and because the report also looks into the rental income for up to March, it grew to 5.4. So we see that there is a healthy return on investment, which correlates with the price of the properties. So this is good news for investors, because they could even afford a mortgage and still manage to pay and get some extra profit. diversifying investments is also always a good idea. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't buy just apartments in Larnaca. Buy throughout Cyprus. Don't buy just a luxury property in Limassol. Buy something in Paphos as well. Diversifying assets is an excellent idea, and all of our clients, this is exactly what they're doing. A recent high net worth individual study that was done showed that the average high net worth client owns 4 properties overseas. Most of them in different countries, again, because they want to diversify and spread the risk. All cities in Cyprus offer excellent investment opportunities. Rental is on the rise, signaling that returns on investment are going very well. And the future seems bright ahead. I believe now it's the time for Cypriots and people from other countries to continue investing in Cyprus.
Thank you, Mr. Simos. So now I would like to thank all of 3 of you, Mrs. Stella, Mr. Simos, and Mr. Fivos, for the very insightful conversation. Thank you so much also for the audience. And I wish for a good remaining of the Realty Expo event for everyone today. Thank you. So we have a question. Yes, please. We will just pass the microphone for you. Thank you.
Hello, anyone. My name is Roman. I represent a big investment company here. I'll share with you my small experience. I'm living in Cyprus about half a year. 3 months I was living in the first line, next to the one tower. And every night I hear crazy noise from these bikes and small cars. So finally I moved to the mountains, green area. But anyway, in 1 p.m., or no, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., I hear this crazy noise from highway now. So my question is this problem should be solved somehow, or there is no such, I don't know, ideas how to solve it? Because as Mr. Fee was told, location is matter. So, but I cannot find in Limassol good locations where I cannot hear this crazy noise during the night. Thank you.
Can I elaborate on that?
Of course, please.
Roman, thank you for touching this point, and I want to make a conclusion that more or less I will blend in to your question. We have had a big number of foreign young professionals relocating to Cyprus, and especially in the city of Limassol, within a very short period of time. So like colleague Mr. Simos said before, in a way we were not very much prepared. However, we want to prepare the infrastructure. We don't want to have any turnover. The people that they come to Cyprus to relocate, we want to incentivize them to stay here. And I believe we have seen practices that the government, the conditions, the living environment, there is incentives for the foreign young professionals to stay here. And I will come to your question. Another thing I want to touch, if you allow me, this influx of foreigners relocating to Cyprus within a very short period of time, we have seen inflation to the cost of living, especially renters in the city of Limassol. In my fair opinion, the first point of entry, obviously, you will come here, you will look around, and you will rent a place that it's convenient commuting in the city. In the following years, these people, I believe, they will start buying. So it's going to be a new demand coming on the market. Talking about Limassol and traffic, yes, you're right. I believe the locals, the industry professionals, we have had talks with the municipality. there is a plan. In the near future, there is elections for a new mayor, and I believe most of the candidates, they will be emphasizing to the infrastructure of the city. So to wrap up on your question, yes, it's a concern traffic, but there is infrastructure on the pipeline to make the congestion of the traffic. It's something we see the city of Limassol with public transportation, with new buses, and I think more practices will come in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your input, and we will finish our today's session, so the next one will begin. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.